Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.
I hope you're all well and feeling good today and enjoying
Beautiful day today, isn't it?
the warmer sunshine, warmer weather, because
Makes you want to be outside, walking.
We've been out a bit and walking a bit and having a little us time, because we meet in Chorlton.
We have coffee.
We have coffee, and we were reminiscing how in sort of years not so long ago we would be spending a lot of time just minding the children, taking care of them, taking them to places, making sure they're healthy and fed and
just
educated.
like that, life changes.
And just like that, it feels like it's in the blink of an eye. Here we are doing our own thing. So if you're out there and you feel a little bit weighed down with your role as a parent, whether you're man or woman, know that there are different phases in your life, and it's never continues to be the same forever.
No, I always tell my kids that too. When you think it's tough, there's an end to it.
Yeah, there is. So what do we have as a program today? Today we're going to be talking about fasting, but all types of fasting from different traditions. Like, we're just going to go over the different traditions, because when we say we fast, others say, oh, we fast too. So we're going to do a little bit of explanation of the ones that we know. Yes.
Fasting.
And also probably around quarter past, maybe 10 past, quarter past, in a few minutes, inshallah, we'll have a special guest who is going to call us. Inshallah, at the moment she's in London. She's been traveling, and she is...
You gonna tell?
Yes.
Lauren Booth.
Lauren Booth, our dear friend and sister Lauren Booth, is going to call us, and we'll be talking in more general terms about living a wholesome lifestyle, a Tayyib way of living, inshallah. So do make sure you don't miss that. Don't go and have your little break or start banging the pots and pans at that time. Or if you're in your car, just stop and listen. Right. So, what do you want to say about fasting now, Angela? What is exactly fasting? I mean, what's the definition? We love to be technical on this show.
Well, we all know, but I'll just double say it. Fasting is the abstinence from food or drink or both for health, religious reasons, ritualistic religions, ethical purposes, depending on who you are and why you're doing it for. Now, we're Muslims, so we do it for the sake of Allah, and it's part of Ramadan, so we're talking about it as we're getting ready,
right,
for the month to come.
Yeah, that's
you can do it for long, for short, intermittent.
So basically it is removing something that you normally would have.
So we're specifically doing a fast from food, and that means food and drink for us as Muslims. I personally also do intermittent fasting when it's not Ramadan, so I just remove food.
So shall we call this one
time constricted? It's also time constricted.
Shall we call this one like a dietary fast?
Yeah, because there's other kinds of fasts. You know, people fast from social media nowadays. We also use that word to mean that.
That you basically take a break from
social media or anything that distracts you. It's something you want to make new habits, right? To cultivate them. But we're going to be talking about the tradition of removing food and or water, and the different traditions. As far as I know, only Muslims, and correct me if I'm wrong, also don't drink and don't have any water, as well as food.
Yeah, we'll have a look exactly at the different approaches from different cultures and habit and sort of traditions, shall we say. But again, Angela, we like to explain the science behind everything. Yeah? And so, can you tell us, what are the biological and physiological benefits of fasting? So whether it's let's say abstinence from food mainly, because water doesn't give you any calories and everything. So let's suggest if you abstain from food.
Well, if you didn't know, well, now we know these days, since in the UK we had Dr. Mosley who did the 5-2 diet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's become trendy to fast, but he's brought he's shined a light on why fasting is good for you, and all of a sudden Muslims say, yeah, see, fasting.
I remember buying his book, and Dr. Michael Mosley, it was just simply called Fasting, I think, or Fast, and I remember reading and was like, oh, this is a mainstream book, a mainstream doctor, and he mentions Muslims. Yeah. And he says in the Muslim tradition, or in the Islamic tradition, I can't remember, people generally tend to fast on Mondays and Thursdays, so it's regularly just after the weekend when you've had like maybe a bit more food, and then in the middle of the week to prepare you for the weekend. And he thought it was a great idea.
I'm sure he's recommended doing fasting twice a week, and say Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah, exactly. He said just choose those days because they make sense. I was like, wow.
Don't we feel a bit like we've been
but we feel, yes, wow, a mainstream doctor mentioned this in a book, and then you're like, come on guys, you're 1,400 years, 440
too late. Or late. Too soon or something. Well, so that's become trendy now. Everybody's talking about it. It's so trendy that there's people who analyze it and bring the cons of not fasting, and they even talk, well, I don't really want to do that. That's not my thing. But it's something people talk about. But in reality, it's not only Muslims that are fasting. So I grew up in the Greek Orthodox tradition. And I remember 40 days before Easter, because they also their Easter's also moves around. It's not like it's
always about in spring, but it can be. There's like a 15 days.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how it works, but it's 40 days before the Easter. So the Greek Orthodox are a bit different from the Catholics. They calculate their calendar differently. And they fast, and their fasting is nowadays, and I know it's changed, but basically it's meatless. There's you don't use butter.
There's no animal fat.
No animal fat. So butter is considered animal fat protein, because it comes from the milk of the animal, and no ghee. You can use olive oil. So in Greece, when they fast, those 40 days, they tend to use olive oil, and they even have cookies made from olive oil. So
they're vegan basically for
vegan.
For 40
There's
days.
Nothing from milk and meat. So vegan, basically.
No animal food.
We can have fish, from what I understand. Oh. So there is.
There is
fish.
a bit of animal protein, yeah.
But fish are not considered really animals for the Greeks. Really, come on, they're not.
Not mammals, basically.
Yeah.
So that's really interesting, and we'll be able to compare. So we have Lauren on the line. So let's hear what she has to say. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Lauren.
Can you hear us?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wow, that was quick.
Oh, you're fantastic. Thank you so much for taking some of the time out of your busy schedule to come and speak to us. Your old radio, you used to be here, didn't you? You had your own show on Heritage Radio some time ago.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I was doing the drive time show about 2 years ago, but now, of course, maybe your listeners don't know, I'm based in Istanbul, so I'm just traveling right now to the UK, visiting family, and if you could see where I'm sitting now, it's a beautiful garden in the suburb where I grew up, which is Hampstead.
Oh, fantastic.
Mashallah.
Beautiful. Yes, I remember in your book that you wrote, remind us the title?
So, we could talk about the book, actually.
It's just because you mentioned a lot about Hampstead, and I could visualize it walking in those hills of North London, and the beauty of Hampstead as well. So
so it's a really wherever you grow up is a place close to your heart.
Yes.
And whenever I come back here, I'm like, I am English. I am from Hampstead. I get where I come from, and I'm okay to come back and go from it. And you need a secure space. So I grew up in Hampstead. My book is called In Search of a Holy Land. That's and right. I made it into an audio book because a lot of mums, a lot of sisters, a lot of working women, we're too busy easy really to necessarily sit down and read a book, but
Yes.
we do like to listen to podcasts, radio shows, and it was also, Sis, a great chance for me to narrate my own work as an actor, so I got to kind of express myself and play all the different parts in my life.
Yes, I have listened to it, and to be honest, obviously we know each other, but so to hear it in your own voice just brought it to life.
It's better when the author reads their book, especially
Not
a book
always.
like The Holy Land.
Not always.
In
As I
Search of the Holy Land,
I
right?
told Lauren, I said it's good that you have your background as an actress, because you know how to read. Some authors read their own work and it's dreadful, so that's a blessing.
Yeah, it's true. You know, there are two ways of looking at it. There are authors who are wonderful narrators and you really love hearing their voices, and others who, if you can't do it, you get somebody with a lovely voice to do it for you. So both work.
Yes, exactly. So, Lauren, we have a few questions. We'd like to focus today a little bit more on something you mentioned some time ago, which is you're encouraging the Tayyib way of life, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about this.
And your life in Turkey, and I want to remind you about the green Iftar Ramadan things, just
Absolutely.
so we don't forget.
Yes, thank you for that. I've got it open in front of me, actually, Green Iftar. I'm just going to open the PDF. So I started Tayyib Way in January 2020, looking at the ways that we can really bring an ethical way of living into our daily lives, and to try to be concerned as Khalifa on the planet of Allah's beautiful creation. And of course we all go through disappointment, I think, of the way this is missed out by Muslims as a part of our respect for what we've been given. I mean, there's so many tracts in the Holy Quran where Allah Ta'ala really, it's like a thump in the chest when he talks about, have you noticed the lanes that go into the mountains that are just mysteriously there for you? Have you ever reflected that everything is created from water? Have you really given thanks for the camel or the date? The date, I think, is mentioned 22 times in the Holy Quran, God's toffees. And all of these are really, should be flags for us now, especially coming up to Ramadan, about how are we going to behave and what do we do to behave. So my series, by the way, you can find it on YouTube. You can go to my Lauren Booth official YouTube channel and look up Tayyib Way. And I interviewed people from Abdurrahim Green, who is really actually makes his own bread, tries to live sustainability. That's interesting, right?
Yeah.
People you would, and his big advice for me was, I said, if there's one thing I can do to really contribute to looking after the planet, what would it be? And he said, don't fly anymore. And I was like, oh no, anything else?
That's tough.
Not always easy.
Yeah, I mean, you can say don't fly anymore, or lobby the airline company to try and find new ways of powering their jets. But it's
Or fly less. Or fly less.
Fly
I
less.
think all of these are accessible, and I fly less. If there's a train, I go in
Exactly.
that. I've given up. I've stopped driving a car. Now, all of these, if you're young and if you've got young children, there are times for these things and times for other things. But let me run through some thoughts in the short time we have with you and your listeners about Ramadan, because one of the things as a new Muslim coming in was this beautiful high expectation of how the Muslim community is going to care and be the most ethical, with beautifying all of our events. And then you come to your first Ramadan and it's junk and rubbish and waste and styrofoam, and you think, how does this fit in with the prophetic model? So let me give you some figures. Within 30 days, iftars in 2,700 mosques in Germany produce about 480 million kilograms of plastic waste.
That is horrible.
About 3.5% of Germany's annual waste. Now, we've got 4,000 mosques in the UK. They probably make more than 480 million kilograms of plastic waste.
Yeah.
If there was research into this, would that be 5% of your UK's annual waste is just in Ramadan? A'udhu billah minash shaitanir rajim.
Absolutely. No, that's horrible.
Terrifying.
Definitely.
So Muslims produce more plastic waste in Ramadan than any month of the year. So we are more wasteful,
That's very
more
embarrassing
greedy,
for us.
more toxic, more toxic.
Yeah.
In the holy month of fasting, which is self-control. If you think about it, how long does it take, for example, for a plastic bottle to decompose? Up to 450 years. So what we're trying to do, there is a movement, guys, called Green Iftar. They're based in Germany, but they have wonderful resources for us to take in. There's a lovely PDF you can download. And what they're saying is, don't try and do everything, but do one thing. Don't do nothing. And my appeal to really the British Muslim Heritage Centre is, don't give out plastic bottles this year. Don't pay for them. Get a big, a couple of big water dispensers. And when people come in for Tarawih, bring your own mug, bring your own bottle from home.
Yeah.
Fill it up when you come in and sit with that. That is a ton of waste already done. So that's an easy thing. How can all this environmental pollution and waste possibly be in line with spiritual reflection? So let us make a sustainable and effective fast-breaking choices, inshallah.
Yes, absolutely. I think in the UK we have the Islamic Foundation for Environmental and Economic Sciences, so IFES, IFEES, and they are also have on their website. I saw some recommendations, and we'll have one of the trustees, Safiya Abdul Halim, next week talking about other ways you can improve your lifestyle as a Muslim to be more green, and also especially Ramadan. So that was shocking. I mean, those statistics are just
like
horrendous.
3.5% of the Germany's waste. That's terrible.
Yeah, that's really bad.
So I'd love to run through a couple of other tips for your listeners that are easy to implement. And again, you don't have to choose all of them, but just that I pray, inshallah, that one of them, which has happened to me, will just go, oh, yes, I get that, I can do that, and I'm going to do it in Ramadan and carry it on. So, for example, there are some nice local farms, especially around where you are. And there are also delivery services that bring you to your door local produce.
Yeah.
Now the boxes you can normally get a month offer if you sign up, and that means that the air miles that your Ramadan vegetables have travelled are far less.
Yeah.
So instead of buying a pepper from Spain or Peru, you can get one from a greenhouse locally. You know, but there is a halal farm with free range sheep, I know, in Oldham.
Yeah.
Find out about these and support them. Okay, and as for meat, have it once or twice a week.
Yeah.
Or if that's too difficult for your family because they have cultural expectations of, we look forward to Ramadan for the food, okay, say one meal a week. One iftar a week is going to be meat-free. Just one. That's 4 in Ramadan. And you've cut down a percentage of the meat. Now, water's a really big one. Please, please, please do this. Take a water bottle with you when you go to the mosque. You do not, it's such a scam. When you think you're buying water from the shop, you're literally buying a plastic bottle that you're going to throw away and will be around for 450 years. You don't need to do it. Yeah? So those, and practice less is more. Let's go for simple iftars, or again, one vegetarian iftar a week and one very simple one. There are wonderful books out there on the Prophetic Diet. There's a Turkish author called Muhammad Akor who did a great book about how the Muslims around the Prophet, peace be upon him, used to eat. Imagine doing one of those and saying this was the Prophet's favorite dish. It makes you cry to think of it, right?
Yeah.
Can you do you know the name of the book that you can share with us?
It's I'm going to just check it for you, but it's by Muhammad and Akkor.
All right, easy
and I
to
think
find.
it's prophetic food.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got it. It's called Early Islamic Culinary Art, based on prophetic editions. The book focuses on the meals at the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, after 14 centuries. I get so excited thinking about eating things that he liked.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously we have, as we've discussed in the past in the show, you have sometimes different regions will have different types of food that are prevalent. It's because of the climate and the way the body's made, etc. But you can inspire yourself from what Prophet ﷺ used to eat to kind of apply to what you're eating in terms of quantity and in terms of kind of a wholesomeness of the food as well. So that is such a good tip. What other things? So the other day we went to a restaurant, didn't we, Lauren? And they had these styrofoam cups and everything, and we put them on the spot. But they were very generous, saying we don't normally use them a lot, and we are replacing slowly. So we feel that there are still some progress to be made, generally speaking, but there are already, people
it's very
trying to change things. Yeah.
In the takeaway industry, they use a lot of styrofoam.
Sorry, Lauren.
There's something really simple to do, and I tried to do this a few years ago. How about making the British Muslim Heritage Centre a centre for ethical chocolate and tea? It's a very simple thing. It's just whenever they serve tea, it's from an ethical source, and the chocolate has to be from an ethical source. And you actually get a badge. The churches have been really good at this, about getting ethical produce, and we're far behind. Now, Manchester has a wonderful, very active community. Somebody listening out there, please put together 5 or 10 of you and lobby your masjid and the British Muslim Heritage Centre to have proper food, free range and ethical and less plastic.
That would be
or just
amazing.
Yeah, inshallah.
Yes, definitely. This is what we are really to push. This new generation is not going to take the way the previous generations. We're much more aware, much more keen and active, and feel like we have an impact on our immediate surrounding. I mean, sometimes it just means picking up some of the litter that's in your street and things like that. Just show that you are concerned about your environment, and don't throw things out of your car windows, please.
Don't ever do that. If I see that, I once saw a Muslim child in Longsight come outside a restaurant and throw his tissue in the road, and his mum was inside laughing. So I picked it up and I put it on their table. I said, I think you dropped this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just shameful. And I'm going to leave you on this, guys, because I've got to go.
Yes.
Here's a really good saying. The people in the UK, they don't have access. They're not reading the Quran. They're not reading the Hadith. What are they reading? They're reading you and I. So that we are their source of Islam. Yep. May Allah make us worthy.
Ameen. Jazakallahu khairan.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren, for taking time out to talk to us.
Very, very insightful as always, and love hearing your voice, full of energy and inspiration. So inshallah, may Allah bless your stay in Britain and
safe travels.
Safe travel back to beautiful Turkey. Take good care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum.
Take care. Wa alaikum salam. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Well,
that was lovely talking to her, and I loved all her ideas. Her ideas.
What I like about her is that she's uncompromising, in how she wants to change things. This is the problem, but also she comes with very concrete suggestions, and this is what we're about here as well. It's like, okay, this is the issue. This is what we're trying to encourage ourselves first to do, and then you listeners to do.
But this is how change happens, though. Somebody who people respect, right?
Yeah. And
her word has weight, gives these ideas, and then other people think, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then we need to organize.
Yeah.
And then slowly get our organizations from the bottom up to change.
Yeah.
Because that's how it's gonna happen. It's not gonna happen overnight. When it comes to plastics, recyclables, that might be easier to change because you're buying then accessing our fruits and veg and our meat. And I don't think it's too much to ask to eat one vegetarian iftar
Definitely not.
It's when you think of vegetarian, a lot of people think there's no. It's not. It doesn't fill you because it's only vegetables, but it's not just vegetables. It's the lentils.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right,
exactly.
all the dals, and there's since we have a South Asian community in Manchester, they have a really strong tradition with dals and different types of beans. So, inshallah, we can have it.
Yeah,
We can do
definitely.
that.
And the approach, this is what we always say in this show, is just do one thing at a time. Don't start, I need to be absolutely
Perfect.
100% green.
And then you do nothing.
And then it becomes overwhelming. It's the same with changing your diet, changing whatever you want to change in your life, changing your sleeping routine, whatever. You always go bit by
One
bit.
step at a time.
But what makes the big difference is consistency. Consistency is
Definitely.
the key. Is to start a little, then building a habit. You do that every single day, or whatever it has to be, the frequency you've decided for whatever it is. You do it consistently for several weeks, then this becomes a habit. Then you add or you increase.
With Ramadan though, I think it needs, if people have already planned what's happening in Ramadan and they've already planned the iftars, it's something you plan forward. So even if we get one person who's willing to organize in each community in their mosque, then, and to be the one person who is in charge of the organizing, like whoever is deciding what kind of iftar you're gonna have today at a certain mosque, then hopefully they will listen to this message and plan these things. I mean, I know people use the idea of, it's more affordable, it's cheaper to use, but is it really cheaper to use styrofoams and paper cups?
No.
You make people bring their own things, or you bring an extra one with you for somebody else, like a plate, a cup, a fork, a spoon.
Look, to be fair, in your house, I'm sure everybody has slightly older crockery that they don't mind taking somewhere, and if it breaks, it breaks, or plastic things that for picnics and things like that. You can really have very good ones, good quality ones, and that last, and the good plastic as well. Be careful. Use
And it's
good
common
quality
now
plastic.
to have water bottles that you reuse.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a common thing. Even coffee shops sell them, and they also sell reusable cups to take it to the coffee shop to fill it with your coffee. So these are becoming more common. I think people will be open to change.
Yeah, we're not talking like 10 years ago when it was really hard to find anything that was reusable. Now, as you said, all coffee shops sell their own cups you can buy and to take away. You find them easily anywhere in any supermarket, flasks and things like that. My best friend is my flasks, to be honest. I take it everywhere, fill it up with whatever, my own organic coffee with my organic milk or soy milk, whatever I choose to have that day, and it's so much cheaper, and it's your own thing, it's your own good quality food and drinks. So this is what we did in Eccles Mosque last year. That was last year we started having, a few years ago. I think it was before COVID. I don't think we've had a community iftar yet, but we used to encourage the community to come with their own plates and cups, and quite a few actually did. And even when we have a ladies gathering, we try and have like a monthly gathering. We all bring a dish, get together. We said just bring your own things, and last time we had one, I don't think we had anything disposable, and that was really, really good. Really
It just
felt
takes
like you were
one step at a time, a few people at a time, and then those people come and they get affected and they pass it on down to the next event and the next event. We just have to get into the big events and also take away. Chippies are going to be, I think, the last to give it up.
well.
But they could easily move to
Now you can see
non-styrofoam.
those. I mean,
items.
we'll discuss that more into details next week when we go over the sort of how to have a healthy Ramadan. When we talk as well with Harfiya Abdel Halim from IFIS, she'll have lots and lots of tips. So make sure you tune in then. We'll have to have a short break for the daily adhan. So inshallah we'll come back in a couple of minutes, 3 minutes inshallah.
And we're back. Alaikum salam.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, as part of the Tayyib Way, the healthy lifestyle and everything, obviously fasting has a big part. This is why we started talking about fasting. Then we had Lauren Booth on telling us some tips on how to have a green Ramadan and a greener lifestyle. And we'll talk more about that next week, inshallah, when we cover with IFIS, the Organization for Islamic Foundation for Economy, for Environmental and Economic Studies, and we'll talk about more generally the healthy Ramadan as such. But generally speaking, so as we started saying earlier on, that fasting has got so many different ways, and you started telling us about the fast from Greek Orthodox.
Well, they fast for 40 days as a vegetarian, so they feel that's fasting. They don't have time restriction. What they do have is the type of foods they eat. So they don't eat anything to do with meat or like milk.
Mammal.
Meat
anything
and
from mammals.
Mammals. So everything they'll have is vegetarian. They eat they use olive oil a lot.
And fish. And fish.
They do eat fish, but they use everything but no meat and no milk.
Yeah. So anything from red blood. All right. Okay. Fine. That's no. They do also no fish and seafood with backbones. I see.
Of course, my family wasn't very religious, so I don't know how strict they were. Because I didn't come from a strict.
But there's still some things that you were doing
but
in your childhood.
You knew it was fasting, and we were told, we're eating today beans, and we're not having meat because we're fasting. And
it's interesting because my Catholic background, my parents really not practicing, not going to church, never the word of God was uttered in our house, apart from my grandparents, but like me, immediate family, my parents and brothers. But it used to be, I don't really think they still do it now, but it used to be on Fridays we wouldn't have any meat, we'd have fish. And that is a Catholic thing where once a week they make sure they don't have any meat, and it's on Fridays. So again, there's a connection with Friday. All of the religion, the people of the book, we have this connection with Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Yom Sabt, the Shabbat.
Yeah.
For the Jews, Yom Sabt for us. There's nothing really happening, but it's called Sabt, as in the rest.
Even in Greek, the word for Saturday is Savato, which when I started learning Arabic, it goes very well with Sabt. Savato. Yeah, they just put it's pronounced a little bit different, but it's basically the same letters.
Fascinating. Yeah. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Fridays, the Catholics do something special as well, and they have some of you may have heard of Lent. Maybe
so that's
people
the
around
English
you.
word, Catholic word, right?
And Christian, I think it's beyond Catholicism, I think, Lent, where for 40 days before Easter, same as the Greek Orthodox, they abstain from certain things. I am not entirely sure how it was originally. I am sure Lent at the time of Prophet Isa alayhi salam was a lot stricter than what they do now.
They've changed it. Even I read something about the Catholics. They've changed it since the Second World War. They've become more or less strict. Let's put it that way.
I think it's probably because in Second World War there were so many restrictions. Rationing, everything that people just did not want to go through. There was a lot of trauma. Even in Britain, some may have heard from neighbours, grandparents, older people saying there was a lot of trauma around rationing, and in the 60s, 70s, there were a lot of people wanted to just relax and just.
At least there was rationing. In Greece, there was starvation. Like people actually died.
Yeah.
And the only people who had food were those in the villages where they had access to olives.
They could
olive
grow
oil,
their own things.
and then they can make some bread and like very basic something to eat.
Subhanallah.
So it was terrible times, and may Allah protect us from that. I mean,
So basically, Lent in Catholicism, the way I know it, would be when I was a child, we'd go for because I was educated in a Catholic school, private Catholic school. And again, not because my parents were religious, just because my mom had a job there. She was a French teacher there. And it was very strange because we were told about Lent, about Easter, because we were still taught at the time by some of our teachers and nuns, and we had RE lessons. But then at break time, there would be a fundraising for a charity or other, and they would be selling a baguette. Okay, that's staple in France, so it's nothing fancy. Don't
get all
don't worry.
excited.
No, it's just staple. Just every shop, around the corner would sell it. But inside we would have a piece of chocolate. So how is that abstaining you from something fancy?
Well, France has gone through this problem with religion, and they were trying to sweeten up the kids. I don't know, not to feel like they are missing out, because they feel like if you're suffering, it's a bad thing.
I guess, if you look at it from the French point of view, instead of having your real croissant full of butter and really nice, and again, very common, very easy to find, but fancier and harder to prepare, we toned it down a little bit. We had a piece of chocolate and the bread rather than something much more rich with a lot of butter.
So they were abstaining from butter. Right. Okay. So you can be surprised. When we talk about Ramadan, I will tell you what I thought of fasting then.
Yes.
You grew up with eating while you're fasting.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
In quotation marks, fasting.
So then I had a friend in England. She was a bit more religious at some point, and she was following some sort of particular church, and their idea of Lent was and it might have been encouraged to do at other times in the year, this sort of fasting. You would be fasting from jewelry, you'd be fasting from makeup, fasting basically from something that you were attached to, and would make a big difference. Yeah. So for instance, someone who doesn't wear makeup, fasting from makeup does not make any sense because they don't wear it, But someone who does wear a lot of makeup and cannot, inverted comma, go out without the foundation, everything, the layers and the eyes and hands and the lips, then to fast from that, there's a big thing for them.
Well, there's the Seventh-day Adventists also, there's a stricter versions of them, but those strictest ones also are meant to be vegetarian, and they're very strict with their fasting.
Mm-mm. So there's also other religions and ways of life and philosophies that do fast. So, for instance, I have an uncle who followed the way of the Buddhists, and I remember the first time I fasted in Ramadan, we talked about it rather. He said, well, the way you fast is not a real fast anyway, because you eat. I do a 7-day fast.
With no food, no water.
What? 7 days? Then I realized, he was doing a long water fast.
Okay.
So they were drinking.
So they were more, they were time constricted, and no food, just water for 7 days.
So for 7 days to do, and as we will see a bit later, this is one type of fast that people can do to reset the immune system. But we'll talk about it a bit later. So Buddhists do that. They have some of these things going on. Hinduism, Angela, do they do
as far as I could find, it is practiced, but it's not an obligation, but they can do it as a spiritual act. But it's not mandatory as far as I can find. I mean, unless anyone in our viewers, our listeners, can call in and tell us about it.
Because I know quite a few Hindu converts to Islam, so they might have an experience they can share. But basically, it's not, it's just to show you that, not to say, Islam is okay because it's done everywhere else as well. No, it's on the contrary. It's like, there are reasons why we do things, because Allah tells us to do. But as we know, Allah knows our body because He made our body. He knows that it's work. It's like someone who's created a car to say, put that oil in and not water in here. Remove this, or go and get it checked regularly. Do your MOTs, and this is what it's all about. Is to every car maker has got similar recommendations. Some car makers will have better recommendations, better quality, better the way it's done. And this is a bit how it is in Islam. We have, I think it's because Allah, I can't put intentions in Allah, obviously, astaghfirullah, but what I mean is like, because Allah knows we are weak and it's easy to not do something that's recommended, He has imposed it on us. Because
it's easy for me to fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't think I could do it.
No.
I thought, what do you mean don't eat and don't drink from all this? I thought it was impossible. Like when you're outside of it, you'd think, no, it's not possible. But when you actually do it in Ramadan, and everybody is fasting, well, in your family, if they're Muslim, then it becomes something easy. Like I'm a bit amazed. No,
this is the thing. Even it wasn't my first. It was my second fast. I was in France with my parents. I was I was the only Muslim, obviously. I had just told them I'd become a Muslim, and it was the first day of Ramadan on the 1st of January, 1998, and I was on my own. But I could have not fasted because I was traveling, but because I was there for a few days and I thought there's no reason, it's middle of winter, I can do it easily. I just missed it, but that was actually quite tricky because in France lunchtime meal is really important, it's a family meal. But the fact that it was an obligation, you just switch off, isn't it? When you're told do it, you must do it, first day, okay, that's it. Even if you approach it with trepidation sometimes, especially when it's a long summer day, the 1st of Ramadan, that's it. The switch is on and you're into it, and you kind of remove that discussion you have in your head. Oh, maybe I won't do it today, maybe I'll do it another day. Like the days you have to catch up in the rest, like women, we know, if you've been ill, you have days to catch up. How much harder they are, even if you fast in Ramadan in the summer months and you can catch up in winter, which is a lot shorter. Just to plan that day to catch up is so hard. Why? Because it relies on you deciding to do it, and that is the big difference.
When it's imposed, for us in Islam, it's imposed on us by Allah, but even though it's imposing on you, you're still having to choose it. It's not like, oh, why do some people do this and they don't do that? Because they choose to do it. Even yes, it could be like something you have to do in our deen, in our religion, but you still have to choose it because we have free will. That's why you choose it. So, and it's, if you're told that if you become Muslim, this is one of the mandatory things you have to do, and you're accepting Islam, then you do it. Yes, you do have trepidation. It was hard. When I first did it, I was 18. Never fasted before, not in the way Muslims do. And I probably didn't know what I was going in for.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that in the second hour. So make sure you keep tuning in for the second hour of our show, because we'll be talking more about our own personal experience with the Ramadan fast as we converted. But before we do that, we've not really looked at yet exactly what are these biological and physiological benefits of fasting. So what is it exactly, Angela? Explain to us. How does it work?
If you do it right, okay, because the way a lot of us fast in Ramadan, we get sick, we feel ill. The way we prepare for fasting in Ramadan can set you up for either success or failure. So what does failure looks like? It looks like you're miserable the whole day, your temper is bad, your blood sugar is all over the place, you're constantly hungry, you can't concentrate, and that's because of what you're eating when you break your fast and the day before. So now we're trying to find how to be more successful. Obviously this is meant to be uncomfortable, it's not meant to be a walk in the park, but it doesn't have to be so miserable. And you can get a benefit out of it depending on what you eat for your iftar. So what the other benefit is, it could help improve if you do it right when you're fasting. When you're breaking your fast is the key. You will improve your blood sugar, you can have a better brain function. So when you're praying with at night at the mosque, at the Tarawih, you're all there. You don't have to get into a food coma. All sorts of benefits. But the key is when you break your fast. So the next day when you're fasting, and the day after that, you are feeling energized. So how to do that? It's what you eat. I'm going to tell you, you need to remove refined carbs as much as you can. And if you do have them, and refined carbs now, Safiya, you know what they are. It's pasta, refined pasta. It's the rice, yes, rice and bread, the big culprits, right? And the potatoes. And now you're going to tell me, so after you remove those 4 things, what is left? Well, how about this? You don't look at them as your main meal. You look at them as a little side thing, right? So we need to improve the quality of our what we eat, right? So for example, eat a sweet potato, eat brown rice, eat brown pasta. They might not be making a lot of difference. So also what you eat with it in smaller quantities, you add healthy fats. You make a nice sauce to put over your food. Like when you make a nice curry, you use ghee. You put it over your rice, but you can eat less of it so it doesn't affect you so much. You put on your plate nice vegetables according to your tradition. Like in Asian cuisine, there's so many delicious vegetables
True.
that we don't have here in the UK in the cuisine. So there's okra, I can't even tell you the vegetables that are available. You can just make nice food with spinach. You cook it with ghee. You eat the dal, right? And it's protein. So have your protein, meat or beans. You have nice healthy fats. Increase your salad or your steamed vegetables, and then eat those refined things in a more moderate way, because you want to have energy. Even though you're eating, you don't want to be like so sleepy, and you want to go for Tarawih and you're half asleep while you're hearing the Quran, you know what I mean? And then the next day when you're fasting, you're gonna be really tired and exhausted, especially if you start having all the sweets, all the desserts, all the drinks. I recommend no drinking your calories, no sugar drinks, nothing to do with sugar. No, not even if it's called raw, unfiltered orange juice or apple juice. Have water, right? It's the best version. And if you want it to be sweet, just a few drops of squash in there, just a few drops, not like, half and half. I mean 2-3 drops, just to give that little flavor, and you have a nice flavored drink. But what you eat is going to affect your fasting, and you're going to have to check it out.
So imagine, you are doing all the right things, say, and then either you're fasting because it's Ramadan, or you're fasting because you want to have some of the benefits. So what are the benefits then? Generally speaking, of not eating, it is considered that about 16 hours without food is where is the best minimal amount of time when you don't eat, and that's when your body works at repairing itself, etc. So
well, that process, when your body gets to that point where it's burning, it's called autophagy. Okay, it's the process that your body starts to recycle old broken parts, let's put it, of cells in your body that usually just sit around, hanging around your body, causing problems, leading to disease. If you're fasting for 16 hours, 16 hours is considered the minimum to reach autophagy, and you get that feeling of energy, right? You're not feeling tired even though you haven't eaten, because usually you're told you have to eat to get energy. It's the other way around. You do have stored energy in your body, and once you reach that 16 hours, your body starts to access that stored energy, and also breaking down, repairing your body, so you get new cells in every part of your body.
And the good thing to know is that for most of us, autophagy occurs in our sleep, which I love to know that, because we'll talk about it later on when we talk about our experience of fasting. But a lot of people are like me, and maybe you as well. It's like you do like eating, and just like that idea of crunching things or having things in your mouth, it's a natural process, isn't it? So we have that need, and to say no to something, this is when you want it even more. So to know that it happens, a lot of this process happens naturally in our sleep. Part of sleeping is the recovery and repair. I include 8 hours, 6, 7 hours, 8 hours of sleep in my fasting window. So for instance, I eat until 6 p.m. Generally I have training in the evening. I do my taekwondo or I teach Pilates or something. So I'll do some form of exercise. I am not too hungry when I come back, but generally I don't have anything afterwards. If it's been a really heavy training, I would have maybe a little bit of soya yogurt, which has a lot of protein but very, very low calories and very low zero carbs. So it doesn't give me like the sugar rush or anything. It just nourishes my muscles. And then obviously go to bed in the evening, sleep,
it's a perfect,
repair, and then I delay my breakfast. That depends on your lifestyle, obviously. So, but if you can try and have like your 16 hours like this,
of course, you have to include your sleep in there, and you get more restful sleep too. Especially if you go to bed with a full stomach, you're gonna have stomach acid coming up, having to make you get up. It's uncomfortable. You need to stop eating a few hours, especially here in the West, where a lot of people eat their main meal in the evening. Try to eat a few hours before you go to sleep.
Now, interestingly, in Britain, this is when I find it easier to eat early, because naturally people, because they often skip the lunchtime, or children when they go to school, they have like a lighter meal at lunchtime. They come home 3, 4, 5, so they have their dinner between 5 and 6. I find it's easy to tag along with that idea of not eating too late at night. So you just have to kind of make a conscious decision to not grab the pack of crisps or the biscuit with your cup of tea, or not have a lot of milk with your tea. Maybe replace it with soya milk, which has. It's actually I've developed a love for soya milk with tea, because it gives. First of all, I leave my tea bag for 5 minutes in, and it brings all the flavor of the tea. It's beautiful. I know it doesn't make a very strong tea that sticks to your palate. It really makes a flavoursome tea. You remove it without squashing the bag, so it don't have all that bitterness coming out, but all the flavors there. Just twirl it a little bit, remove it, and then you add soya milk. I was so surprised. It gives that sort of milky texture that is nice and heartwarming, isn't it, in a cup of tea? But there's no carbs, there's a bit of protein, and you still have the full flavor of the tea. I absolutely love it. And to be honest, I'm quite fussy with being French. It must be because I'm French. I don't know. Blame it on the French. But I love it. I love it. So there's ways, you can arrange things.
Well, you can make the most out of your fasting in Ramadan with depending on what you eat during Iftar. Then you can actually feel the benefits of what Ramadan is meant for. It's not meant, this is the month of overeating, eating. A lot of people have heart attacks in the month of Ramadan in our communities. That just sounds nuts.
Crazy, yeah.
Like, Ramadan is meant to improve in so many areas. So Ramadan is a good time to reset your habits, give your body a chance to breathe, to repair. And if we're constantly eating for the full hour, the whole time, whatever you didn't eat during the day, you fed all the food that you didn't eat in those 6 hours before suhoor, you're like asking for trouble. No wonder in our communities we have high incidences of diabetes.
Yeah, I
right?
think the issue is to tell yourself, okay, I'm going to get restricted, and generally the brain panics when the brain hears restrictions. It equates to famine, so it tries to act, but all you have to tell yourself very consciously, and it works. You just tell yourself, it's okay, I will eat again in the evening, and so naturally you reduce the quantity of food you eat at suhoor. You don't go back to bed because, if it's really early, you need to sleep a little bit extra after suhoor, and you don't go to bed with like a distended stomach, feeling really, uncomfortable. Or, as you said, before going to Taraweh after Iftar, just spread your meal, especially spread your sips of water, and you will feel a lot better. So we're going to have a break for news, and then inshallah we will speak to you again after that for the second hour, where we'll go a bit more into our own personal journey, some more tips. So as usual, tune in to get the most of our advice. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And we're back.
Assalamu